So this all sounds very easy. What about when there are challenges or when you have concerns about the program or the curriculum?
I guess, again, it would be just discussing what the issues are, and it comes back to, again, having those strong relationships with staff. They feel comfortable to bring up issues. And of course, I also feel it's my responsibility in this role to raise particular concerns about program, teaching and curriculum. So it will be done in a very spontaneous way, just talking about what issues have come up or what do we see as ongoing issues or concerns, and then looking at ways that we can actually manage the situation. Usually we're able to do it within those structured times. I find that's a really good time. We're away from the children, it's dedicated time. We can work on some strategies and ways that we can actually implement some change if that's needed. Or sometimes it may be a larger concern where I'll need to then go back and talk with Sharon, my director, and discuss how we could manage the situation. In those sorts of instances, we've had to then take something to a staff meeting, or we might look into training for particular staff to build up skills and knowledge in that particular area. I did have one example where we found that our use of computers with the children was, I guess, lacking a little bit of intention. So again, using the language of the EYLF has helped with, I guess, providing us that little bit of support around what do we want to see happening for the children within the program. And through those sort of reflective conversations and that mentoring time, we've had the opportunity to develop strategies and actually computer use guidelines that we now use with all of the children. And I find that that's helped, you know, the unqualified staff that were not sure of what they were doing in that area. And it's also helped when casuals come into the service, they can see very clearly what our intention is. And I guess that's something that we like to then branch off and do in all of our areas of the curriculum as well, is make it quite visible what our intentions are.
Yeah, that's great. And Beth?
As a team, we discuss any concerns that we have. So if there's a larger concern that we can't really deal with on a home visit, because we do have time restraints and the children come first, they require our attention first before we move on to paperwork issues. Then we move on to things where we organise training outside of hours. If that's the case, then we try and come up with solutions. Our most recent solution in regards to talking to the educators about their program is to provide additional training. This is additional training on top of their monthly meetings and other regulatory training. This training was completely voluntary on behalf of the educators, and when we actually sent out a letter asking who was interested, we only had perhaps 2 or 3 that we were sort of thinking would be good to come in. We've ended up with about 18 wanting to come in. So we've been overwhelmed with the response, which has been fantastic. We've actually also found that in the change to the qualifications, where all our educators are required to have a minimum of a Certificate 3, has been a great aspect of developing family daycare. All of our educators completed their Certificate 3 last year, and it has gone great strides with how they look at their profession, and that they are early childhood educators, educating the children. Many of them have actually embraced this and even gone further, moving on to study their diplomas. Some have even finished their diplomas and have gone on to university. So this has made our jobs much, much easier. We are really focused on portraying the passion of curriculum and the importance of it. And through that role modelling, through our home visits, through our trainings, informal and formal, we hope that we're doing that. And I'm seeing the difference in our educators. They're interested in what you're saying. They're interested in where it goes for the children. And at the end of the day, our job is there to have positive outcomes for the children. And I've noticed a huge difference since the National Quality Framework has come out.
One of the other aspects of being seen as an educational leader for me is about reflecting on your own style of practice. And I've found through being in this role for quite a long time and getting to this point where we actually have a formalised educational leader, that it's crucial to look at your own style and your own way of leading. And I think it's so inspiring to watch others, like Beth had said, to actually develop their own style and their own ways of doing things. And in that, I'm not saying that you should let anything happen, but there are lots of ways to do things really well with a high quality curriculum in mind, that it is for the best interests of the children. So I guess that's my way, is looking at letting people do things in their own way with a view to always improvement and challenging them and pushing them and hopefully inspiring them to go on to further training and those sorts of things.
It's a really good point, because it is one of the challenges of leadership, when to allow people to do it their way.
Yes.
and the desire to have people to do it your way. So I think it's something that I think you do work on over a period of time. And Beth, what advice would you have?
I think the most important advice in family daycare services can be, from 10 carers or educators to 100. But I think what would be most important would be to have contact with all the educators in your service, so that they understand that that role is there and that you are there to provide them with support. You're not looking over their shoulder, you're there to educate them and assist them to provide a better curriculum and a great experience for the children. I think another thing is, if training is offered to you, take it. Anything in terms of curriculum, the EYLF, environments, whatever you can, take it. Because understanding education and understanding our role is the most important way to impart that passion onto other people, to be a good role model for other people.
So what suggestions would you make for anyone who's taking on this role for the first time?
For me, again, it's about the importance of building trust and relationships with the staff, absolutely. Without that, it's impossible to lead that team and to have those strong connections. I would also say that it's really important to track, record those kinds of conversations and the action that you like to happen. I keep a little journal with all of my educational leadership work. And I guess that's just accountability. It's about it being professional. It's seen as, actually valuing what the person has said, and looking at some strategies on taking it further, whether it's extending the children's learning or actually making a positive change. So looking towards that sort of improvement aspect.
So Kelly, can you just show us perhaps an example of what you would write in your journal and how that works?
Sure. So basically I just take note of the discussions that I have with staff members and jot down little points. So if it was a spontaneous discussion, I just try and find a moment to jot down the main points from that, and if possible any follow-up that we'd like to work on from those sort of discussions. And it has led to amazing changes, and I think a more shared vision of what we want to see in the curriculum. So it's led to things like plotting what our identified interests and opportunities are for the following month, things like storage, routine charts, memos for staff about particular issues where we've really wanted to follow up on a concern, and we've actually put out a memo to all of staff to talk about a new way of working. We've looked at a very in-depth investigation of our observations. So we've actually looked at how many we are doing over a month's period. Is that actually workable and realistic with our time we have available? And that's led us to make some changes as well, which I think have been fantastic. The staff actually feel like what they can do now is workable within the time frame. We've also looked at things like our tracking system. So one of the things that always tends to come up, I'm sure, across all centres is the fact that children, are we observing all children Are there gaps and silences within the program, within the written documentation in particular? So that was another way of being able to document what was actually happening, and that's led to us now every month looking back on what's happened in the month and then tracking who may have been missed during those observations or had less, and then were there any patterns to that? Was it age related? Was it group related? And then we'll work on putting in, we've got a little tracking system that we put in our daily diary now to actually have staff all record. We've implemented a small little tracking system in our daily diary, and it's just that one place where all staff look every day and they can take note that particular children need to be focused on within the next few weeks, and that's been a really good system. We started to talk about what everybody actually wants to do in their area, so everyone's designated in an area basically that they've picked
that
or
they've
chosen
working on.
to work with someone else if they weren't sure.
Yeah.
So even though Jackie, for example, she wasn't too sure about what she wanted to work on, she's quite happy to work with Alala around nature. She feels comfortable with that.
Yep.
And this morning she actually set up a really lovely nature collage experience. It was really nice.
Yeah.
So, and she's starting to think through, okay, we could collect things, we could have she was, you know how we did at the curriculum night last year where we set up that art table where people had to draw and whatever.
Yeah, like
She's thinking
cues
of
and
doing
props
that
and
with
things like
nature.
that, yeah.
So using lots of different natural materials for sensory exploring.
And seeing how they engage with it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we're just worried about time. So we're thinking, of course, about how we'll be able to share the time equitably, and that's always an issue. But I don't want people to be using their whole programming time
working on that,
to just be working on this. So
and we should be able to sort of, depending on when everyone's here, because there's not a lot of leave happening over June.
Okay.
So,
good.
I mean, there's the usual sick leave and things like that, but there's no big holidays or anything like that. So I've already done the diary for then, and most of the times a lot of people. So there'll be times when I can release people to have an hour here, an hour there, and catch up and do stuff.
Don't limit it to those times where you bring a group upstairs.
No.
There's lots of lovely opportunities for the back garden use, for the sand pit. Trupti was using the water in the sand pit today as an experience, and so great, capture some of those moments with Anna and Mira and some little ones, and document that, and that could also be used for photo.
Yeah, so that's where my stuff ties in with the photos, because I've already spoken to everybody and said start taking photos of the things that you don't necessarily have an end product.
Yeah, I think
so
that's good.
And then Jackie's going to say, when she does her photos, she's going to save them into a file, so then I can go through and pick out and do the slideshow as part of that as well.
She's doing that anyway, so it's not too hard to then move things
and that way
across.
you capture more of the babies that don't necessarily have an end product to what they're doing.
Yeah. The other thing is, I mentioned with Susie about using the jottings folder. So other staff could be using the jottings folder to jot down little things about each other's interests. So it's one place that we can go and find information.
So keeping that sort of working journal seems like a really good tool for keeping everybody focused, I guess, on issues of curriculum.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us today and inspiring others to become educational leaders and take on that role. You've made so many good points today about the importance of relationships, about the importance of knowing your leadership style and having a passion for curriculum and being able to motivate others. It's great to have the role acknowledged and to have recognition that people are putting a great deal of thought and energy into ensuring that the experiences that children have in early childhood settings result in best outcomes for them. The role also has the potential to spread to the wider community and really advocate for the importance of early childhood and the importance of the work that educators are doing in early childhood settings. Thank you very much.
Thank you.